just not tech savvy, so I don't know.
Me neither. It's just something I think you
It's
learn.
Charles that does it.
You learn as you go
Okay.
along. Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ and Friends. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and my guest today is literally my shiro, Miyoko Shinner. She has a new book coming out tomorrow. It's called The Vegan Creamery, and she's going to show you all kinds of ways you can make ice creams and cheeses just using things like seeds and nuts and oats. You know, I have been vegan for 48 years and let's see, 2 weeks now. And people say, well, I could
Oh my
be
God, you got it down to the day.
yeah, because it was September 1st. That's how I remember. So yeah,
Got it.
exactly. So, people have been saying, well, I'd be vegan except they can't give up cheese. Well, guess what? You don't have to give up cheese. You don't have to give up butter, and you can still have delicious cheeses and everything and be kind to animals and the planet. So let's get this book because, it really helps all vegan and plant-based authors when you get their book the first week because that's the week that really, really matters. So I'll put a link in the chat in the show note. And actually, I'm not like I mean, he would think, how did I go to culinary school? I'm not that savvy. I was worried, like she wanted me to make one of the recipes. I got home late last night from cancer camp and I made this in, I don't know, like, I don't know, 15 minutes. Incredible. Look at this beautiful ricotta made basically from seeds and nuts. Please welcome Miyoko Shinner. It's been
Uh,
so long. You have to tell everyone where you've been and what you've been doing.
well, hi AJ, thanks for having me on,
Oh, my
and
pleasure.
hello everybody out there in viewership land. Gosh, I've been working on this book for the past 3 years, really just delving deep into my kitchen and getting back on the bench and really, really going deep into what can plant milks do? What can I make milk out of? And then with those milks, what can I turn into cheese versus butter versus sour cream versus ice cream? And really understanding the properties of each plant milk because unlike dairy milk, which is, let's just say cow's milk is different from sheep's milk, which is different from goat's milk. They have different protein and fat compositions, and it's the same thing in the plant kingdom. So what works in one cheese, a milk that works in one cheese won't work in, let's say, ice cream or something else because their protein and fat compositions are all over the map. So what I did with this book is I discovered which plants had the perfect composition to make cheese, for example, versus ice cream versus, let's say, a nutritional drink for milk for drinking. And I learned about the types of proteins in them, how to coagulate proteins in plant milk, which is something that hasn't been, done or explored a whole lot before. And that is how the ricotta that you just showed was made. It was by actually coagulating the proteins in two different milks and getting the right curd size to make a ricotta versus, let's say, a larger curd size that I use to make, let's say, blue cheese, because I want a bigger curd for that. So it's really just sort of this sort of scientific journey that I've taken myself on over the last 3 years that culminated in this book.
Amazing. Well, you talk about like curd size. Like, is cottage cheese a curd basically?
Yes, cottage cheese is a curd, and you can make it out of the same milk that you made the ricotta out of without the cashews. You get a bigger curd size for that. And then you need a cream, sort of a lactic acid cream in which to sort of, uh, combine it all.
I mean, you almost have to be a scientist to figure this out.
Well, I'm not a scientist, but I'm like you, AJ. I spent a lot of time in the kitchen tinkering. And when you tinker, accidents happen or things happen and you go, huh, how did that happen? What was the reasoning behind that? And you just you delve deeper into it until you figure it out.
Well, I always wonder how did the person that invented aquafaba, like for things like meringues, how did that even happen?
Okay, well, if you ever have boiled a pot of beans, you get this foam that is on top of it. And I believe that was probably the reason. So when you're cooking, have you ever like had to skim the foam off the top
Oh, you froze for just a sec. Is she
of
frozen?
the
Hmm. Oh, Miyoko, you froze for me. Oh boy. Is she frozen for you guys?
bean? AJ?
Yeah,
Hello?
you froze for me for just
Yeah, and you froze for me. Okay.
oh my yeah, the last thing you said is have you ever boiled a pot of beans and then there's stuff that you skim off the top?
Right. it's the foam. And so I think
Oh man.
that was probably the rubber, but they were probably witnessing that foam and wondering, what can we do with this bean liquid?
That's so cool. And then they turned it into meringues. So there's a lot of questions
Yes,
about the
exactly.
ingredients in the book. So yes, if you are strictly SOS free, not every recipe is going to be suitable for you. And I know you can talk about why certain ingredients are needed because I remember reading in a book, a book about food addiction from Michael Moss, Sugar, Fat, and Salt, How the Food Giants Hooked Us. If you take salt out of cheese, you don't have cheese. It's not cheese. I mean, that's why people like it because it's fat and salt. You can't make it with zero salt.
Well, you can. Of course, it doesn't taste as, with the ricotta that you just made, you can leave the salt out if you want to use it for a sweet dessert, like a tiramisu or a cannoli or something like that. Yes, but if you want to use it in a savory concoction, you can add salt or, you can just forego it. It's completely up to you. But I think the salt in this cheese is held at a minimum.
Yeah, it's not much for the whole thing. And I'm not SOS free anymore. I mean, I'm oil free, but I eat salt and I don't mind using it. And it was such a minuscule amount. But that is why what makes people like food. But in general, in the non-plant-based world, what is cheese? It's fat and salt.
It is cheese, it is oil, it is fat and salt, basically. It's actually more than that. It's also the protein. So something happens when you add a lactic acid bacteria to a milk that has protein and fats in it. The lactic acid bacteria starts to work on the fats and proteins and breaks them down through a process called lipolysis and proteolysis. And through this, it creates these flavor profiles that are non-existent in milk. So it does make the proteins and the fats more digestible. And we have not done the science on the impact of lactic acid bacterias on plant milks, but I'm guessing that it makes the proteins and the fats more digestible in this case as well.
So when did cheese start occurring in human history? Just regular cheese made out of animal milk. Like,
Oh gosh, thousands and thousands of years ago. The story is someone took some milk and they put it into a calf's stomach, because they used every part of the body, and that was how they carried liquid. And the rennet in the calf, like the stomach, coagulated the milk, and cheese was born. So that's the story. I have no idea. That could have been pre-agricultural revolution, or it's probably sometime during the agricultural revolution, so sometime in the last 12,000 years. But since then, there have been all sorts of accidents. The story about blue cheese is that there was a shepherd who had his hunk of cheese, and he was out on the hillside with his animals one day when he saw a lovely woman, a beautiful young lady. And he hid the cheese in some rocks, and he went and chased the woman. And when he came back several days later, his cheese was covered in blue mold. And that's why it's called Roquefort or Roquefort. That means a rock, basically. So blue cheese was apparently invented by accident. And so, most of the culinary developments in human history have been accidental.
that's so interesting. And that just, I remember, vegan 48 years ago, I don't remember seeing any cheeses back then that were vegan. There were some, but they were vegetarian, but not vegan. Like they had casein, but they didn't, I'm not really sure. They didn't taste very good. They didn't taste like yours for sure. And in 1977, like they didn't even have like boxed milk, but now well, you're going to talk about how easy it is to make your own. And you use some very unique ingredients. Like I've never heard of watermelon seeds before. I mean,
I know. And
but I never
yeah,
heard of them for using in a culinary way. And I was surprised when I got them, they were white and not black.
yeah, so watermelon seeds, they're not the little black seeds that you spit out of watermelons. In fact, today we have hybridized watermelons, so they don't even have seeds in them. They're all seedless. People didn't want to spit out all those seeds. But in places like China and India, even in Africa, melons are grown predominantly for their seeds because they are so high in nutritional value, and you can use them in so many culinary applications. So that's what these seeds are. And you can get them. I'm providing a link to a website where you can get them, thecheesemaker.com. And there's a coupon code Miyoko12 to get 12% off. But you can get your watermelon seeds there. I predict that this will be the next cashew. Where, back when I wrote Artisan Vegan Cheese in 2012, cashews were really not on the radar for a lot of people. Back then, people were still predominantly using soy for a lot of for a lot of recipes. And then cashews just really became sort of a major force in the plant-based movement. And I really predict that watermelon seeds will follow that same trajectory. The issue with cashews, and the reason I have not utilized cashews a lot in this book, is I discovered that a lot of people have allergies to cashews, just like they do to peanuts.
Yes, yes, I
Yeah.
know a few people. It's
Yep.
unfortunate because that makes such a creamy
It
thing.
do- yes. But also cashews aren't as high in protein as watermelon seeds, and they don't have the same amount of fiber. So watermelon seeds really are a nutritional powerhouse, and I just wanted to feature them. And it the world just sort of opened up to me when I discovered what they could do. And it gave me ideas like, could I do the same thing with hemp seeds or could I do the same thing with legumes? And I just sort of went off on the deep end, just, exploring all of these nuts, seeds, legumes to figure out, can I make yogurt out of chickpeas? Can I make cheese out of mung beans? And I discovered by changing the technique, I could.
Right, that's amazing. So show the little thing that you had. That's brilliant. I mean, that you use that I use that to make the ricotta as well. Like that's just a little strainer.
It's just a little, it's a ricotta, it's called a ricotta basket. So I made this ricotta yesterday, and I know you did. And I only made a half a batch. It would normally fill up this large container. And this is the way. So this cheese is made, we're going to make it on set. It's made like traditional dairy cheese
What do you do?
in that
Like now, was
you,
the liquid that drained out of it, was I supposed to keep that or throw it away?
well, it's up to you. I use it to bake bread. So, or to make soup. I actually I collect this and then, um, you know, I live alone now, so I eat a lot of soup. At the end of the day, I'm tired. I just kind of take all my leftovers and vegetables from the garden and throw them into a pot. And I will substitute some of this for the broth because I'm adding more nutrients to it. And, it's just waste. But there's, healthy natural, there's protein, there's a little bit of fat in here. I also have a cheese in this book. So everyone's heard of American cheese. Everyone's heard of these processed cheeses that line the supermarket walls. And that is made from whey. That is whey protein is really popular among athletes. I don't understand why. It is the waste product of dairy. I don't advocate for dairy in any way, shape, or form for environmental, ethical, and nutritional health reasons. But um, interestingly enough, this whey is also full of nutrients. So I can actually make a cheese out of this, and it's called Way to Go cheese. So it's a little bit more, it does contain a little bit of oil. A lot of the cheeses and I even the ice cream in this book do not contain any oil whatsoever, so they are sort of AJ friendly. Not all of them. I have used oil in certain recipes where it's absolutely required for a culinary purpose, but I have done everything I can to eliminate oil and still render a delicious product. But this whey is also nutritionally valuable, so keep it. I'm going to flip this cheese out of this basket and show everybody.
Yeah, show us garnishing things. You talked about ice
There we
cream.
go. Yes.
How flexible or how important are the sweeteners? Like you call for organic sugar. Could it be date sugar? Could it, I mean, like how important is it to not substitute certain ingredients like sugars if somebody wanted to use other?
Okay, the sugar is completely up to you what you want to substitute. I've used, I write books for mass appeal. And so, but you can definitely substitute the sugar. I think I give an option of either maple syrup or organic sugar, but you can definitely substitute date sugar. You can use a monk sugar sweetener, etc. I use that a lot. So there's different options. What's really, really important now, sugar does prevent crystallization, and so it renders a milkier, creamier feel if you have an ice cream maker and you're not just sticking the ice cream base into your freezer, then the ice cream maker will prevent crystallization. But if you're making an ice cream and you're just going to stick it in the freezer to freeze overnight, which you can do with some of the recipes in this book, then the sugar does help prevent ice crystals. If you really don't care, what you can do is take that ice cream out. If you've made it with, let's say, uh, what's it called? Monk sugar, monk fruit
Monk
sweetener.
fruit, yeah.
Yeah, monk fruit sweetener. You can just reprocess it in the food processor and that will make it creamy again. So there are options to eliminate sugar as well. But if you do that, the ice creams in this book, just like you see on this on the back cover here, are made without adding any oil or coconut milk at all. So they tend to be, they only have the fat that's contained in the seed or the nut that is used. What I've done is for ice cream, I've used two different bases because I want people to use this book as a diving board for experimenting on your own. So some of these recipes you have to follow exactly. Like if you're going to make the ricotta, I ask you to follow the recipe exactly, or you may not get the curds. But something like ice cream flavors, use the ice cream base, which is either watermelon seed milk or it's either a cashew milk with rice added to it or oats added to it. And the rice, the cooked rice and the cooked oats actually renders a creamier fat-like mouthfeel without adding any oils or coconut milk to it. Um, but take those bases and then, go wild with your own flavors. You don't have to just use the flavors in this book.
How long, once you make a ricotta like that, will it last in the refrigerator and can it be frozen?
I've actually never frozen this, so I probably should. In fact, I'll take this and freeze it and just see how it turns out. But in the refrigerator, this ricotta lasts about 2 weeks, and then it's not as good. And of course, just keep it in a nice Pyrex container with a tight fitting lid on it.
I like that you made it half. I think next time I'll make two halves because it's cute that way. Then you can put more stuff on top.
Oh my God. And this is such a crowd pleaser. It's fantastic for breakfast, like on a slice of toast with a little bit of jam or some fresh fruit or even, I like to put marinated onions on top of it with some capers. Um, but you can serve it as part of a charcuterie board, and sprinkle it with other nuts, marinated vegetables. You can crumble it on salads. You can bake with it. So you can make lasagna. You were talking about lasagna.
That's what I was thinking of doing because my original recipe called for tofu and I developed a soy allergy and I that looks like the perfect amount and texture for Chef AJ's disappearing lasagna.
Oh, yes, yes. Well, it will disappear faster than ever. No, no, seriously, it is the milkiest ricotta I have ever had. Tofu, I'm sorry, I love tofu, but tofu is not ricotta. It just does not taste the same. You want something milky that kind of melts in your mouth. You want it to have some texture in the very beginning, but then when you put it in your mouth, you want it to really sort of melt. And tofu just does not do that.
How is tofu diff I mean, how is ricotta different than feta? Because you mentioned you could crumble it in salads, and I'm thinking immediately like that's feta in a way.
So there is a feta recipe in here. And the difference between feta is obviously it's much firmer. I'll just show you. This is a soft cheese.
Oh.
So it is crumbly, but it is very, very soft. The difference between this and feta is that feta, um, in order to make it, is fermented. This is not fermented. This is the fresh cheese that you can make within 15 minutes, as AJ was saying. And then you have to pour it through a basket like this or a sieve. If you don't have a basket like this, you can just use a sieve. And then you have to let it drain for several hours before you can do this. Feta is made slightly differently. After you want bigger curds slightly than this, and then you want to ferment it. So you got to bring the pH down so that it is sharp and tangy in flavor. And that is because the lactic acid bacteria you've added to the milk goes to work on it in order to create this wonderful tangy fermented flavor. After that, you drain it, and then you have to salt it. And it's the salt that brings the rest of the moisture out of the cheese, making it really, really crumbly. So when you first make feta, it sort of is like this ricotta. It's very soft in texture and it's spreadable. Um, After you salt it and leave it at room temperature for a couple of days, it turns into this hard block of cheese that you can literally just crumble. After that, you can brine it. You can put it in olive oil if you're not oil free. And after about 30 days is really when that feta cheese flavor develops. So cheese is a complicated science. There's a whole gamut of cheeses that are either made fresh like this, or you can go all the way to making cheeses that take, several months. But over time, through the breaking down of the proteins and fats, releases these amazing flavors.
Yeah. Well, I remember your first book, Artisan Vegan Cheese. I mean, you taught us how to make cream cheese. I mean, basically, it's so easy.
Yeah, well, yeah, cream cheese is another one that's easy. But that one takes about a day because you're still bringing the pH down a little bit. And so there's a whole range in this book. It depends on how deep you want to go from just making a really simple milk, which it starts out talking about the different milks. And even the milks I've tried to add nutrition wherever I can. So, for example, something like oat milk isn't really very nutritious. I mean, it's fine, but it's mainly just oats. And can you make that more nutritious? So, what I've done is I have a recipe called fortified oat milk, which adds some hemp hearts to it. And by adding hemp hearts, I doubled the protein and increased the fiber, the omega 3s, all of that. And then there's some other interesting milks, like there's barley milk, which is kind of cool. So you can make milk out of barley, which is actually really sweet. And then you get the sludge left over. And with that sludge, you can make something like cream of wheat, but it's cream of barley. So there's no waste either.
Nice. Did you do the photographs? I mean, this looks just like real Roquefort cheese.
Well, yes, I call it Rockfort, Rancho Rockfort, after Rancho Compasión, the farmed animal sanctuary that I started.
Yeah.
But
Can you talk
yeah, I
about
didn't do
that
the
a little?
photography. Yeah.
People are asking what your tattoo says, and I wore this shirt because you gave this to me, compassion.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I remember I have one of those too. So
Oh,
my tattoo says phenomenally vegan.
and that is
So
quite a bicep muscle you have there. And your
um,
birthday's in 1 week from today. You're going to be a couple of years older than me, I think.
yeah, I'm going to be 68
That's right.
next week. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, we're all getting up there,
Oh
trying
my.
to stay as healthy as we can as we age. But
How do you do
uh,
it all? Because aren't you like a professor at Berkeley now, and you've got an animal sanctuary, and this is like your 12th book or something, isn't it? Or seventh?
it's my seventh book. You nailed it. And yes, I am teaching at UC Berkeley now. I teach one class. Uh, so, I don't know. It was weird. I mean, I never thought I would ever go into academia, but they reached out to me a couple of years ago and asked me if I would co-instruct a class on a plant-based food system. So that's what I teach. I teach in food systems at the Haas School of Business. It's also part of the public health program there. And it's really become a popular class, and I'm thrilled to be engaging students in talking about what if we were to envision a new food system that's based on equity and justice and health for people, planet, and the animals, what would it look like? And that's what the class is about.
Well, do you live at your animal sanctuary? Is that your home as well?
Yes, yes, I live right here at Rancho Compasión in NorCal, about 45 minutes north of San Francisco, in a little town called Nicasio. And I moved out here about 10 years ago. And shortly thereafter, I had 17 acres. Someone called me and said, "Hey, we got these two goats. They're strays and they need a place to live. You have a barn, you have some land. Can you take them?" And Rufus and Reggie, these 6-month-old goats, arrived. And I discovered they were just like dogs with horns. They were so cute and they followed me everywhere. We went hiking together with the dogs and I fell in love with them. And then three little pigs arrived. And then it was just like, okay, I got to do this right. So today we have about 117 animals. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. This is our 10th year. We're celebrating big on November 15th with our 10th anniversary gala. So if you can go to our website, Rancho Compasión, it's spelled like compassion, just with one S, ranchocompasion.org, and learn about our work. But what we've done is we've really expanded beyond just farmed animal rescue to embracing a youth education program. And what we do now is we have all these programs. We've got after school, summer camp, field trips, and we call ourselves a sanctuary for all because it's not just animals that are suffering. There are so many kids today that are also lost, especially kids that are neurodivergent, at risk, that are from underserved communities. They also need a place where they can find peace in their lives. And so through these programs, we connect kids with individual animals where the kids learn they can help, they have something to contribute. Everybody has something to contribute. Everyone has something to give to another, even if it's an animal. And these kids learn to take care of animals, to give love to them, to nurture them, maybe to take care of one that's also, let's say, we had a paraplegic sheep and we had a girl in a wheelchair who really, really related with her because they were of the same. And then we also created a large organic garden where kids help plant, they harvest, they cook from the garden. During summer camp, I cook for the kids. And what you're finding is that these kids whose mothers think they only eat chicken nuggets, pizza, or macaroni and cheese are coming back for seconds and thirds on vegetables and salads and tofu. And it's all about connecting kids and giving them a place where they can discover nature and animals and learn about the food system of who is a friend and what is food. So our youth education program is something that we're really, really proud of here at Rancho Compasión. It's really all about animals and kids because the kids are our future. And we have to tap into that compassion when they're young, before they get indoctrinated and their hearts get hardened.
Oh, wow. Is it open to the public? Like, can regular people just come and take a tour, or are there certain hours?
Yeah, so we're open for tours every Saturday. So you can go to our website and learn about it. I think the tours start at 10 a.m. I'm not exactly sure. We're closed. We have events year round. So we have all sorts of events. We have, Earth Day, Halloween, Mother's Day. We do all sorts of events, including farm to table dinners, meaning uh, vegetables in our yard, our garden, transform into dinner. And of course, I do the cooking for that. And then we have, big events like our Cirque du Sanctuary Gala in November, where we're going to be featuring, it's like Cirque du Soleil, but it's Cirque du Sanctuary. It's a circus for the animals, not with animals. And it'll feature aerialists, acrobats, magicians, all this sort of stuff. And hopefully, it'll help us raise money to help continue all the programs that we have.
That's so cool. How far are you from Sacramento? Maybe we could get a bus and like just do a tour, get a bunch of people on a bus and all go together. Oh,
I'm sorry. For some reason, my internet connection isn't great today. It should be. So I
oh
lost you
yeah, I
for a
said
minute.
like
What did you
I was
say?
wondering how far you are from Sacramento and if we could get like a bus and just bring a bunch of people up to come see you.
Oh, that would be great. We have people from Sacramento that come out here. We're about an hour and a half from Sacramento.
That's not bad.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, we've got people that actually volunteer from Sacramento. And so yeah, if you can visit, you can volunteer, you can come to one of our events.
It sounds amazing, but with 117 animals, I mean, I can't imagine you feeding. I mean, do you feed them every day? You must have people working there, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, we have four staff.
Okay, I was going to say because
I,
that
I'm not doing that anymore. I used to get up at like 5:30 in the morning and go down there and do my shift, but I haven't done that for years. I'm hands off. I'm chairman of the board and I help with fundraising and writing newsletters and things like that. But no, I'm not down there every day feeding the animals. I can't do that. I mean, there's so much. It's not just feeding the animals. You got to shovel shit because shit happens on a sanctuary and it's everywhere. So.
oh my gosh, that's hilarious. You recently did you were somewhere because we had wanted you so badly to come to the plant powered party, which was fabulous, but you did some other event. How was that?
I don't remember which event it was, to
Well,
be
it
honest.
would have been on Saturday, the 30th of August.
Oh, okay. I was giving a talk at another event at actually at a vegan winery in the South Bay. So there's a vegan winery called Moose Mountain. The winemaker actually is on the board of PCRM, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And he was hosting a dinner that night and he wanted me to give a talk. So I was there.
Nice. Well, I think a lot of people that are ethical vegans don't, or any type of vegans, don't realize that not all alcohol is vegan.
Exactly. A lot of alcohol is clarified using either fish bladder or called isinglass. Sounds really yummy, right? Or egg whites.
Even thought of that? Like, who even thought, like, well, I'll get a sturgeon.
So
I mean, how are these things even thought about? But
that I have to research because I've always wondered that myself.
not all. Well, Susanna says you look so strong and fit and healthy. Could you please share your workout routine?
Sure. So I've been, working out for years. But as I got older, I did CrossFit back in the 1950s. I lifted weights when I was in my 20s and 30s. And then, I went through a period of raising kids and didn't exercise as much. And I kind of got back into it in my 50s. CrossFit was great, except for as I got older, I started having injuries. So I had to really kind of scale that back. And now I do a combination of I walk probably about 5 miles a day. Not all at one time, but through, walking my dogs in the morning and the evening, plus lots of running around, and it adds up to about 5 miles. And then in addition, I do some sort of weight training about 3 or 4 times a week, or I do high intensity workouts. I've really scaled back, so I keep my workouts down to about 30 minutes now. Um, I've cut down on the amount of weights that I lift, and I incorporate into my exercises. There was something that I started recently called sprint workout, sprint interval training, SIT. You may want to Google that. And this could be a good way to do it. It's where you do something at high intensity for anywhere from 10 to 30 seconds. And then you take like 2 to 4 minutes off. And then you repeat that for about 8 cycles. So you're going super hard for just a few seconds, and your heart rate goes up, and then you bring it down, except for you don't let it come completely down, and then you repeat that. And that's a really good way. Apparently, it's scientifically proven to really increase I guess, your metabolism so you burn more fat. It maintains muscle, etc. But as we get older, it's so important to do weight-bearing exercises to keep your bones strong. I'm not a big woman. I'm Japanese. I'm 5'3", and so women that are slight or smaller tend to suffer from osteoporosis more than big burly women. Um, and so it's important. It's been shown that weight-bearing exercises help to keep your bones strong. And so that's why I like to incorporate some weights in it. If you don't know how to do a routine, you can just start by taking what's called a farmer's carry, which is you carry something when you go for a walk. So maybe it's a 5 pound weight. It could be a couple of books. It could be, a bucket with some things in it. And you can increase that weight over time. I walk up the hill. I have a very steep hill. And, once a week or so, I walk up there with two 15-pound dumbbells. And then when I get up to the hill, I'll do exercise with the dumbbells. So I kind of vary my routine. So I'm working different angles all the time. But I feel like I have to do something to maintain muscle mass and bone health.
Yeah, well, you look amazing. And what do you eat in a day? Because you can't just be eating cheese all day, right?
Oh, I mean, I do eat this ricotta, but I'm like you. I try to minimize the amount of oil that I consume. I'm not SOS free, um, but I try to minimize the amount of sugar, oil, and salt in my diet. So, I eat a lot of vegetables. I eat a lot of legumes. I eat a lot of whole grains and rice. I'm Japanese, so I eat rice. I eat foods like natto, which is fermented soybeans. I make that as well too. Um, Sometimes for dinner, I will literally eat, just, I don't know, a pound or two of vegetables stewed. I do a lot of stewed stuff because it's easy and I live alone and I just want something that's filling in a hurry. I do eat this ricotta because this is so healthy, I believe. I eat tofu. I make overnight oats. But I eat a variety of foods, but I try to incorporate some sort of nuts or seeds every day, lots of fruits and vegetables, and legumes.
Well, that ricotta does combine nuts and seeds. It's got the
It
watermelon
does.
seeds and it's got the cashews, but I haven't heard any of the doctors talk about like the watermelon seeds. I'd love to ask Dr. Greger about these and what he feels does he even know about them?
I don't think he does. I mean, it's relatively new. I kind of stumbled upon it by accident, and then I dug into the research, and it turns out in India, India and China, watermelon seeds are really, really popular. And then they have something called char magaz also, which is a combination of four different seeds. I believe it's pumpkin, watermelon, something else. I can't remember what they are. And then in Africa, there is something called igusi, which is a different type of melon, but it's also a seed. And these are all used to make creamy concoctions. So they actually make creamy sauces out of these seeds. And this is traditional. It's not like, I invented it. It's been going on for centuries. Now, they weren't making cheese out of it. That I think may be new, but making a creamy concoction that they would add to things like curries and stews is something that's been going on for centuries.
Wow, thank you. Here's a great question from a newbie. And she says, for those of us who are new vegans and don't know your story, Miyoko, can you please share how you became vegan, why you became vegan, and how you got into vegan cheese making?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I became vegan, gosh, about 40 years ago in the 1980s. When I was living in Japan, I was already a vegetarian. And then I read an article about the treatment of dairy cows. And I thought, well, I can't just be a vegetarian now. I have to give up dairy. But for me, it took a long time to transition to veganism because cheese was my downfall. And if was at a party and there was this beautiful platter of cheese, I could not pass it up. So I was a cheating vegan for a number of years before I completely gave it up. And what I realized was that it wasn't cheese so much. I didn't really need cheese. I just needed something unctuous and rich as an appetizer. And so I delved into other ways of satisfying that hunger. But over time, I just thought, I still need cheese. I need to figure out how to do it. So in the 2000s, I really dug deep into fermentation. I started to ask the question, why is tofu called soy cheese? And what's the difference between that and dairy cheese? And the difference is they're both made out of coagulating milks. The milks are different, but the difference is that dairy cheese is fermented. So there's one more component to it, which is lactic acid bacteria that's added to bring down the pH and give it that tangy, cheesy flavor. And so I started experimenting with what can I do you know, by lowering the pH on plant milks. And that culminated in Artisan Vegan Cheese, which was a book that I published in 2012. And then I started Miyoko's Creamery, a company that I parted ways with 3 years ago. And then I just that sort of not having to sell a product freed me up to really think deeply about the food system beyond just taking animals out of it, but really just thinking about how do we create a world of food that is ethical and fair for everybody, not just here in the United States, but across the globe. And I really began to think deeply about food systems and the impact of the 10 multinational corporations that control 70% of what we eat today. 70% of what we eat today in America comes out of a package, and it comes from one of the 10 multinational corporations like Nestle and Unilever and so on. And they are controlling the food system. It's a corporate food system. And it has robbed small producers and smallholder farmers and people all over the world of being able to make a living and contribute in their own way. So I'm really all about today creating a food system that is fair for all, animals, people, and the planet. So anyway, that's sort of my journey in a nutshell.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are we
So,
gonna, yeah, go ahead.
oh, are we gonna what? You go
Are we
first.
gonna make cheese?
Well, we can absolutely. There's just so many questions, but
Yeah.
yes, please make cheese. But I have to ask this one from Cheryl because
Mhm.
one, she's coming for dinner tonight and she's going to be able to taste your ricotta. That's the
Oh,
only
good.
reason I didn't taste it on the air is because I'm serving it to company. But this is people always ask about travel, and she says, if you travel to Japan, do you find it difficult to be vegan while being there?
Well, so Japan is actually, I'm going to tell a story. Uh, it was a vegan country for 1200 years because of Buddhism. And they only killed the first four-legged creature in the 19th century during the Meiji Restoration when the Emperor Meiji said, we can eat animals again. But for 1200 years before that, it was forbidden to eat animals because of Buddhism. So Japan actually has a long history of veganism. Today, fish stock is found in so many things, but if you avoid dairy, then yeah, and you can somehow find a place that will make the stock, the broth out of seaweed instead of fish, then you can eat vegan. There are more and more vegan restaurants all over Tokyo. There's over 200 vegan restaurants in Tokyo alone. And I believe there's something like 60 in Kyoto. So veganism is actually on the rise in Japan. And if you want to go to Japan and experience an entire experience next March, I am leading a tour to Japan that is all not only vegan, but it goes deep into Japanese cuisine and Japanese culture. We're going to be going to a tea farm, a wasabi farm, learning how to make soy sauce, learning how to make miso, and all of the traditional Japanese arts, going off the beaten track. And staying in Japanese inns and visiting Japanese onsens, which are hot springs, even if you have a tattoo like mine, because a lot of onsens don't allow tattoos, but we're going to ones that do. So if
Wow.
you're interested in coming with me, you can go to my website, miyokoshinner.com, and hit the travel link, and you can learn all about my vegan tours.
That's so cool. I mean, that would be fun to just to go with you. How many people generally go on these trips?
About 20 to 25 on my trips, yeah.
How long have you been
Yeah.
doing them? That because that'd be something I could get behind. I mean, that sounds like just an incredibly fun type of vacation. That's more
Oh
unique
yeah.
than just,
It really is because you're with your own community, you're with your own peeps, if you know what I mean. And so there's a different level of connecting and you're forming community while you're exploring all these things together. I started about 10 years ago. The trips were just mainly to Italy, and I still lead trips to Italy. But next year, I started Japan this year, and next year I'm expanding to Japan, Tanzania, and India. So we'll be doing vegan trips to all these places.
that's amazing. And you do cooking classes while you're there.
Yeah, we do some cooking classes. Other people do classes as well. But everything has a food and culinary focus. So we're really learning about food systems and traditional diets.
That's amazing. I find like, I still do SOS free recipes because, I work at True North sometimes and I want people to have options, even though I don't mind eating things with salt and miso. But I find that in all the Asian cuisines, that's the hardest part because you can't just like take soy sauce out of a recipe and expect it to taste like the recipe.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, you cannot take, well, soy sauce or, fermented fish sauce, which there are vegan versions now out of places like Thailand and Vietnam. Often use a very salty fermented fish sauce. There's miso, etc. So you can't take salt out of it. But, I would say until the 20th century and the westernization of these diets, most of these countries had very low incidences of diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and all these chronic illnesses. Um, you did have to watch out in some northern parts of Japan where they had very high salt intake. High blood pressure was something that you had to watch out for. But in the central to southern areas of Japan, Japan's a very, very long country. Um, those conditions didn't exist because they use less salt. For example, Kyoto uses less salt than, let's say, Tokyo, which is a little bit further north. And then, of course, you have Okinawa, which is one of the five blue zones in the world where there's a higher number of centenarians. I did just read, however, that Japan now exceeds 100,000 centenarians at this time. Now, Japan has a population that's less than half of the United States. The United States has under 100,000 centenarians, and their population is more than Japan. So Japan has more than twice the number of centenarians overall. And if you look at the southern part of Japan, that percentage per population goes even up higher. So there's something that the Japanese are doing correctly today, even though, um, they are still, their diet has become somewhat westernized. The Japanese eat about 60 pounds of meat per year versus the United States, which eats about 220 pounds of meat per year. So if you compare that to, let's say, 50 years ago in Japan, the meat consumption, even though it was no longer illegal to eat meat, was probably only about 10 pounds. So and we now adopted dairy products in Japan. When I was growing up in Japan, we didn't consume dairy. Now it's part of the school lunch program, et cetera. So unfortunately, there's been an incorporation of the bad areas of the Western diet that has, I'm sure, is impacting the number of centenarians, but still they're doing something right there. So salt in Japan has not impacted health to the degree that, let's say, the infiltration of meat and dairy has.
Yeah. Cool. I was in Japan. I did okay, with food. It was in 1994. They gave me miso soup there for breakfast and rice and salad. I did okay.
Yes, well, I mean, Japanese breakfast at hotels, it's
That
amazing.
was my breakfast, miso
Yeah,
soup, rice and salad. Yeah.
it's just there's all these vegetables that you can have for breakfast. They have different kinds of beans. They have black beans, they have natto, they have tofu. I mean, like you can eat so well for breakfast in Japan. It's amazing.
Wow. So, are you going to make something? I can't wait.
Yeah, yeah. Let me move my computer over here. Okay, and I'm going to show everybody how to make this. It's really, really simple.
It's so easy. It's
It's so
ridiculous.
easy. Okay, so I've got my blender here, and in my blender I have 4 cups of water. Okay, and I'm going to add to a half a cup of cashews, and I'm going to add 1 cup of watermelon seeds, and then I'm going to puree this. I can't speed this up. If I could, I would.
How long do you have?
I can't hear you, but this is when we practice our singing, right?
Maybe I can talk to them. So anyway, so I have put everything in the show notes now. If you want to get, I'm talking to the audience. She's adorable, isn't she? And anybody who lives up here, let's do a tour to Rancho Compassion. So in the show notes is the link to get these ingredients, the watermelon seeds, the little ricotta basket, 12% off. So show notes will only be seen on YouTube because unfortunately Facebook and Instagram, it's a multi-stream, but this is a YouTube show. So that's where you can find them. And I've just clicked the button. So those links should appear and they should be clickable if you want to try them.
Okay, so now I have this lovely milk, and the book does say to run this through a nut milk bag, which I think was in your kit, right? And the
Yeah,
reason
absolutely. And you can use a paint straining bag too.
yeah, oh, okay, there you
And
go.
they're only like 99 cents. You don't have to pay the 7.99. They work just as good.
I didn't think about that. So great. So here's the thing with a lot of these nut or legume milks, there's a lot of pulp. It's all the fiber, and you have to get it out of there if you want a smooth and creamy milk, and not get a sludge. Um, I have recipes in the book for using that waste. It's called the no waste chapter, and I guarantee you the best crackers in the world are made from the waste. But Watermelon seeds and cashews leave very, very little pulp. Um, so if you're making the ricotta and you don't want to strain this, you can just put it directly into the pot. But if you want the smoothest mouthfeel without any sort of sludge whatsoever, or not sludge, but you don't want any of that, you know, I have a very sensitive tongue, and so the texture of food is really important to me. I want texture that's really smooth if I'm eating something like cheese. I don't want, I don't want what's the what's the word I'm looking for? Little, not granules, but when you get sometimes you go to a restaurant and they serve you vegan cheese and it's not smooth.
Like it's gritty.
It's gritty, that's the word. Yeah, I don't want grit in my cheese. But the amount of grit you get from watermelon seeds is fairly minimal. So if you don't want to bother doing this, you don't have to. And maybe you're not as sensitive as I am. Um, so you can just skip this squeezing process because it adds 3 or 4 minutes to the process. Maybe not that much, maybe 2 minutes. I didn't time it. But you do have to do this. I never thought, what's it called? A paint bag?
Yeah, it's a paint straining bag. So they're about 99 cents and you get it. You want to get one that's never been used for paint, but they're exactly the same. That's when I go to Rancho La Puerta, which I hope you'll get to go to someday. They have your book there. It's just so easy because then like when I teach classes, I can give one to everybody because they're 99 cents.
I had no idea. I'm going to look into that.
And
Now highly recommend that is it made out of cotton? What is it? What is paint? What are they like?
I don't know what they're made of, but I know this sounds really crazy, but Dr. Joel Furman said in a pinch you could even use women's pantyhose.
Pantyhose. Well, there you go. See, look at this.
But who even has pantyhose anymore? Can you even buy them? I haven't seen them for years.
I haven't worn them in years either. Uh,
So but in a pinch, but and you can use cheesecloth too, but it's nice having it, I use it for like if I'm using frozen spinach or frozen kale in one of my recipes, it's just an easy way to squeeze it out, the excess.
I just learned something. So I thank you for that.
Of course.
Um, but Yeah, if you're wondering where to get watermelon seeds, I mentioned earlier, you can go to thecheesemaker.com. It's a small family business. The reason I like them is, it's really hard to find vegan cultures. In other words, the bacteria. If you want to make a cheese like a brie or something like that, and you want the mold, or you want to make a cheese where you want to you need the culture to ferment it, whether it's yogurt or cheese. Just so you know, most cultures that are sold are grown in dairy as the base. They're grown in milk sugar. So the reason I like the cheesemaker.com is they have a whole vegan section of ingredients, including cultures and molds and yeast that are grown in dextrose. There's no sugar left, by the way, but the bacteria need to eat something. Um, so so you can get watermelon seeds, you can get vegan cultures, you can get my book at thecheesemaker.com.
Yes,
I
and you
don't,
can also get a signed copy. I've been putting a link if people specifically want a signed copy, there's a link for that as well, instead of
yeah,
getting
the
it from
signed
Amazon.
copy from Omnivore Books in San Francisco. Um, okay, so here's the amount of, I'm going to empty this out and then I'll show you how much pulp I get. So this is the amount of pulp I get. It's not a lot. But you can add this to your oatmeal if you want. You can cook, and so you can utilize all of it. You can make carrot cake or something out of it. I do a lot of baking with this. I make crackers out of it. So you can get all your fiber back into your food by just stirring it into something. Okay, so now I'm going to take this over here. I'm going to rinse my hands and I'm going to turn this on. Hold on.
She's got a beautiful backsplash, doesn't she? And just so you know, on Friday we have a show with Dr. Ron Weiss. It's called The Doctor Is In. It's at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and he answers viewers' questions. So please get them in at help@chefaj.com. If you're in the community, you go right to the top.
Okay, so I'm going to come over here. I'm going to pull this over here to my pot. So I'm going to angle it like that. And so now I have it in a pot and I have to cook it So until the curds form, and you're going to see some separation between the curds and the whey, So what was that little limerick that we learned as a kid?
Little,
Little Miss
little
Muff
Miss Muffet sat on her tuffet eating her curds away. Along came a spider and sat down beside her and
and scared Miss Muffet
yeah,
away.
frightened
And
Miss Muffet
so
away.
I
Yeah.
never knew what curds and whey were.
Same
I
here
was like,
up until yesterday.
what are curds? What are whey? But it was she was talking about dairy. All right, so this just takes a couple of minutes. The milk has to heat up. Um, you can stir it in the beginning just to kind of even the distribution of the heat. But after that, you want to just kind of wait for it to form the curds. If you stir it too much, you'll disturb the curds and they won't form. So this will just take a couple of minutes. And yeah, we can.
It was really, really fast. While you're doing that, maybe you can answer a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm going to look at the chat, but also, are cashews a good source of leucine and this other seven essential amino acids?
That I cannot answer. I am not a nutritionist. I'm a chef
Hmm.
and activist. So I don't know about that answer. I know certain things, like I guess, for example, watermelon seeds are high in albumin, which is a protein that you find in egg whites also, and that's one reason it coagulates. But I do not know about that particular answer.
Thank you.
But somebody could Google that.
Oh, Cheryl says she gives the leftover pulp to her dogs and they love it.
Oh, you can do that too. I mix it in with their dog food too, the V dog that I give them.
I should have done that. I didn't even think.
Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't know what to do with it yesterday.
Oh,
So,
did you throw it out?
and Lori says, can you use a fine mesh strainer instead of a milk bag?
You can, but it will not do the same thing. It just will not. So for this particular recipe, yes, because there's so little pulp left. But if you're using something like almonds where you get so much more pulp, you're going to find yourself with a very gritty milk.
Great. Thank
So
you. Okay, here's a question. I got most of them. What's this funny picture? Okay. There's a, do you see the plant-based food movement reshaping our food system in the next 10 years?
when you say the plant-based food system, what are you talking about? Are you talking about plant-based products? Unfortunately, there are, well, there's been good and bad to all of the surgence of plant-based products in the marketplace. They've created awareness that didn't exist before, and that awareness has been both good and bad. At first, it was like, oh, that's great. All these vegan products are being sold today. And then there was this backlash because those products are so highly processed and they have not great ingredients in them. And that has given people who are not vegans or plant-based the idea that plant-based products are not healthy. So there's been both good and bad to that. I'm here. I have to just show you what's going on with the milk. It's kind of coming to a boil, and I don't have anyone to hold this for me, but it's beginning to form very light curds. So, and I don't know if you can tell, but we're just going to let it sit. And now, as you can see, I can get some curds. We have to let it cook for a minute. So it is beginning to coat. As you can see, there's some curds on there now. I'm just going to let that keep going for a couple of minutes, and then we're going to strain it. At the end of the day, I mean, people have different roads to going plant-based or vegan. Some people approach it from the health angle. Some people approach it from the ethical angle. Some people approach it from environmental reasons. At the end of the day, it's not the products that we have to change, it's us. We have to change because we can just swap out all the products we want, but we will not effectively make lasting change unless we can accept that we are the ones that have to become more compassionate beings that care about people, planet, and the animals.
Right.
Um, yeah.
What in your early days, what were some of your biggest challenges you faced both in the kitchen and in business, and how did you overcome them?
Well, my first business was in 1980, 1985 or so in Japan. I had a little vegan bakery back then. And then I moved back to the United States in 1989 or so and started a restaurant, a bakery. I had a vegan meat company back in the 1990s, early 2000s. And I think back then the issue was there just wasn't enough interest. I just couldn't get people interested in it, except for vegans and vegetarians, which is fine. But I was not under the illusion that I was going to save the planet with plant-based meals. I was just trying to create foods that vegans wanted. Um, so I think today there's a lot more awareness of veganism, both good and bad. But I do believe that people that are interested in veganism, who are not vegans, the people that I would call early adopters, are not interested in eating, I hate to say it, vegan chicken nuggets and vegan hamburgers. They're interested in learning how to cook fresh, whole foods and make them delicious. I work within my community. I live in obviously just a regular community. I do cooking classes for my community, and I have lots of ladies that come here, um, including ranchers. And they come here because they want to learn how to make fresh vegetables and legumes. And they're not interested in eating highly processed vegan food.
Yeah,
Okay, so I turned the heat off and you can see it looks very different. And I'm ready to strain this now. So I'm going to bring it back over here.
very cool. This took 2 seconds, not 2 seconds, but I got it done really very, I don't know, about 10 minutes maybe.
Okay, so I mean, you can use a sieve if you want. I'm going to start layering it in here and it's going to drain.
I didn't even do it that way. I put it in a bowl. I mean, it still worked. I just put it in a little bowl.
Oh, and then it's how did you drain it?
It just drained around it. I didn't know. I guess I did it wrong, but
Oh,
it,
got it, got it, got it, got it. Okay.
it still worked. So amazing.
So I should have cooked this a little bit longer. I'm on because the curds aren't quite big enough. I just was kind of in a rush.
But you're showing that that's okay because
Yeah.
it just you're
This is the
showing
and
they'll know because guys, as you cook it, it gets like a little. You'll know
yeah, I didn't cook it long enough.
but
But what happens is, so I'm losing a lot more of it. What's going to happen is I can pour this through it again,
yeah,
and it will catch it, and you will end up getting something like this, which
beautiful.
is so. I made this last night,
I
and
cannot wait till
I
five
took a little bit
o'clock.
more time. What?
Cheryl, don't be late because like I said, I have company coming tonight, and
Oh, good.
I didn't want to take it and eat it and then serve that them. So we're gonna taste it at 5 o'clock. You ever drizzle like a little balsamic, reduced balsamic over the?
Balsamic is great. I like to put capers and a little balsamic on it.
Okay,
Balsamic glaze. It's delicious that way.
I will get
A
some
little bit
cake.
of salty, a little bit of sweet. You get both.
I cannot wait to use it again, and I am going to make my own vegan tiramisu using this. Thank you so much, guys. Get the book. It comes out tomorrow. It really helps vegan and plant-based authors when the book is bought in the first week. It really does. This is an absolutely beautiful book, and get one as a gift. And thank you for all the work you do on behalf of people and animals, Miyoko. You are just somebody I've always loved and admired.
Well, you too, AJ. You do so much for the world. So thank you. And
Oh,
thank you, all the viewers and listeners.